In this video I want to show you one of my favourite painting techniques that I've been really enjoying doing just recently. It's creating a ghost. So the first thing I'm doing is just preparing the paper just so that I can get a nice ground to put this mark on to show you. And I want to have an interesting surface, but I don't want it to be full of contrasts. I want the contrasts have to be the colours have to be quite close in value contrast. So I've got a sort of just using blue, and I'm keeping the colours all quite similar and in similar sort of value contrast. So you can see here, even though I'm using this sort of browny colour, it's sort of a dark colour, and it's just going to sit within the blue. And then I'm painting it over. This colour is a little bit lighter, but it's still blue, and if I spread it over, it's going to be transparent in places, a little bit more opaque in other places. Just going to create a nice layer, create a nice sort of surface effect that I can use. And now coming in just with some line and some shape, I just basically want to make some lines. The other lines were quite sort of haphazard, and these ones are more repeated, the same sort of shapes, using the stencil as a guide to making these shapes. Then I've put some green paint over it, so I'm still staying within all those cool colours, and I'm gradually getting darker. So I'm now got a sort of a dark bluey grey, and I'm coming in with this colour and just creating some edges. So I'm just sort of creating edges in here and shapes, and just still building up a surface to work on. I just want to have some, I don't want it to be flat and boring, I just want there to be some interest there. And so this line is kind of similar purpley sort of colour to the dark bluey grey that we've got in the paint underneath. And I'm just scribbling around and making lines and just sort of drawing in here. And a lot of this will get covered over, but it's just creating interesting effects really in the end. So here I'm painting over it with this green, and now I'm going to come in with the blue and create some shapes. And this time I'm using the paint quite thickly and quite opaque to create those shapes there. So I want some really hard edges, and once I've put this down I might create some soft edges just for contrast. Yes, I see this paint's coming in now, it's a little bit more transparent. So that's creating a contrast in that surface, and I can see some of those layers underneath. So this is a slightly lighter colour, and I'm creating just sort of one shape here. And I'm imagining this as sort of a little bit like a tabletop. And I'll put some legs on it. And you can see that the blues and greens that are underneath it just make it more interesting, sort of around that shape. And in this one I'm making a big dark shape, same sort of thing, sort of a table with some legs. Now I'm bringing in this shape, and this is where I create the ghost. So here's the shape. Now very quickly, before it dries, I'm going to scrape it with the colour shaper. And my studio is quite warm, so I need a bit of water. I've splashed a bit of water on, and I'm just scraping that paint right down from the top of that page to the bottom. And you can see it creates where the edge of the shape was, that's where the paint is dried first. And so you get this sort of ghosting happening. You can see the shape, but it kind of disappears as well as you scrape off the paint. And now on the dark surface I'm going to do another couple, and sort of bowl shapes on the table, and suggest a 3D thing, and then a big line which is kind of different from there. And now I'm going to scrape this down. And once again I need a little bit of water just to sort of loosen up that paint, and I'm going to scrape it all the way down. I really like this effect. It almost looks like a print. A little bit more opaque paint at the top, and then I'm just coming in with a little line, just adding a little detail that's different from what I've got there, just for interest, and then a few words, and Bob's your uncle. And so you can see here that I've got shapes in the colour underneath. I've got some interesting marks and things, and then I've got those ghosts. And I just really like the way that they sit on top of the painting. You can kind of see through them. They're kind of transparent, but they're also there. And there's also, creating them, you sort of lose a bit of control, and so it makes a really interesting painting technique.